Now live. We're now live, and the recording has started. So hopefully you don't mind that the session is being recorded and it'll be made available. So if you want to watch again or refer your friends to the site, our moderator will inform you later on where you can access the recorded version to refer your friends to. So a very warm welcome to you. Apparently about 328 people have registered for this event. Let's see how many actually participate. It's always an exciting, it's exciting to see how many actually attend after such good registration. So theoretically, we should start. I'm going to ask if you would mind, if we just wait a minute, let's just give it one more minute and see if some more people link in to listen in. So I ask for your patience just for 1 minute of delay, please. Thank you for that. It's truly wonderful to see this level of interest in our APMEN webinars. It's been consistent growth and very good participation by vector control people from all over the world, but especially Asia Pacific. Such strong interest, really good to see the interest and the spirit of camaraderie that people join in to listen to our APMEN webinars. So we're doing something right, I think, Amita and APMEN colleagues, that people are actually listening in to the extent they are. So I think we should start maybe. We've given adequate time now for stragglers that may have been caught up to tune in. So a very good day to everyone listening in from all over the world. A very warm welcome to this APMENxChange webinar, which is entitled A Century of Vector Control in India, Lessons that Have Been Learned. My name is Leo Braak, and I have the privilege of being co-chair of the APMEN Vector Control Working Group. To those of you not aware of this yet, APMEN stands for the Asia Pacific Malaria Elimination Network. This network embraces 21 member states in Asia Pacific and more than 50 institutional partners, all working towards the common objective of malaria elimination by 2030. APMEN started life back in 2009, and it is now fully integrated with APALMA, the Asia Pacific Leaders Malaria Alliance, with its headquarters in Singapore. APALMA and APMEN have an advocacy and a regional cross-country integrative and supporting role to help coordinate approach towards malaria elimination across Asia Pacific. So today is the annual commemoration of World Mosquito Day. It celebrates that day, 20th of August, 1897, when Sir Ronald Ross discovered that it was female Anopheles mosquitoes that transmit malaria from human to human. Just a little bit over a century ago, after many thousands of years where we were floundering around in the dark, being killed by malaria, not knowing what's causing all this scourge to humankind. That was a truly historic discovery that enabled us for the very first time to understand where to target our efforts to reduce this disease that has caused untold misery and many millions of lives lost over thousands of years. It's worth mentioning also that since that momentous discovery, from then until this very day, malaria control has largely focused on vector control, mosquito control. and it emphasizes the importance that mosquitoes continue to play in our fight against malaria. In the early years after the discovery by Ronald Ross, the fight was mainly by way of larval control through draining of marshes, Paris green, and oils on water breeding sites, but also house screening against adult mosquitoes. After World War II, we moved to DDT, and we thought we could eradicate malaria globally. But we abandoned that hope in the late 1960s due to the development of insecticide resistance against DDT, but also drug resistance against chloroquine. But by the late 1990s, our hopes were resuscitated, revived, and we adopted insecticide-treated bed nets, as well as indoor residual spraying as our main tools against malaria. Soon, again, grabbing hold of our pursuit of that holy grail of global malaria eradication. It is proving an elusive and a difficult target. Where was this momentous discovery made that it was Anopheles mosquitoes we should be targeting? In India. And India has played a major role in subsequent years to demonstrate to the world how malaria control successes can indeed be achieved. It has been a global leader in some ways, and it has also delivered some exceptional people of outstanding talent and ability. And that is why we have chosen India as an example of how Asia Pacific has many lessons to share with a global audience regarding malaria control. To tell us that story, a fascinating history lesson of malaria control over more than a century in India, we have a maestro on the subject with decades of experience and expertise to share. But I'm not going to jump the gun. Instead, I'm going to hand you over to our webinar moderator, Dr. Harsh Rajvanshi, who was recently appointed by APMENxChange as the new Associate Director for Country Programs. And Dr. Harsh will explain the webinar dynamics to you and introduce our respected speaker for this particular webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you will enjoy this lesson in history, and thank you for attending this webinar. Dr. Harsh, over to you if you don't mind.
Thank you so much, Dr. Leo, for the wonderful introduction to our session today. My name is Harsh. Everyone, a very warm welcome to the APMENxChange seminar. I'll be first talking about the mechanics of how this seminar will proceed, and then I will introduce our respected speaker, Dr. Srivastav, to the dais. So the mechanics, the audio video attendees of the attendees is disabled. So we are encouraging the comments in the chat box and the questions in the Q&A box. If you look in the lower side of your screen, on the right-hand side, you might see a Q&A icon. So it is requested that please post your questions in the Q&A box so that it becomes easier for us to find them and address them. And if you have any comments, please feel free to use the chat box. Regarding the presentation by Dr. Srivastav, I would like to give a brief background. We are living in extraordinary times. I think there is some comments about the slides. Let us just wait for a couple of seconds. It looks good now, phone. It looks good. So as I was saying, we are living in extraordinary times, the extraordinary and terrible times of the COVID-19. And there is no better time than right now to sit down and discuss and brainstorm on how to prevent the decades of the gains in malaria elimination. It has become imperative that whatever we have achieved to achieve malaria so far does not go lost in this terrible pandemic. On this note, I'm very happy to share that we have a person with decades of experience in malaria elimination. Today, we have Dr. Srivastav with us, who is the former head of the Division of Entomology and Vector Control in the National Vector-Borne Disease Control Program of India. Now, in his retirement, he is the director of the Absolute Human Care Foundation in India. He was also the co-chair of APMEN Vector Control Working Group till March 2021. When we talk about the education and training of Dr. Srivastav, he obtained his doctorate in 1984 on insecticide residual analysis from the University of Allahabad. He was elected as a life member of the Indian Society of Malaria and Other Communicable Diseases. He was also elected as a fellow of the Royal Entomological Society of London in 1993. He was the India Nodal Officer for Elimination of Lymphatic Filariasis from 2004 to 2016. He has been the advisor to the World Health Organization on many occasions for elimination of lymphatic filariasis. He has also been the recipient of the Westergaard Fredensson Award in 2019 by the National Academy of Vector-Borne Diseases, India. And recently, Dr. Srivastav supported the WHO in preparing the sub-national malaria elimination draft document, the State Action Plan of Jharkhand for Malaria Elimination in 2019, and the Vector Control Needs Assessment document in 2020-21. He has also very recently prepared a national plan for insecticide resistance monitoring and management for Bhutan with the support of the Asia Pacific Leaders Malaria Alliance. On this note, I would like to now welcome Dr. Pradeep. A very, very warm welcome to you, sir. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Harsh, Dr. Leo, Ramita, and Mohin. See, in fact, I am obliged to be considered for this talk. There are many people who are in India who have really experienced these kind of scenarios. To cut the time management purpose, I will just start sharing my screen. Is it visible and audible? Am I audible? Is it okay?
Yes, Dr. Pradeep, you are audible, and the slides are also visible.
Okay, so nice, thank you. So the history, basically the topic is a century of vector control. But if you look back, I thought that without giving the basic background prior to the century, it will be injustice to the subject. So I have started recording some old literature. And if you look, basically when we want to say that we must understand, and this quote I am just quoting the main heading, that the beating malaria means understanding mosquitoes. Without the vector understanding, we cannot deal with the vector-borne diseases. This is very important slogan which was published in 2005 in Nature, and that is very important, and I always remember these kinds of slogans. Now I have divided my presentation into 3 segments. Starting with historical evidence, then what key events have happened, how our program, how before the program, and what is going on in the program and with the research, and then who are the basic people who have contributed, and so that our young generation, they must learn that how those people in those periods they have struggled, and now they have to understand, and they should also move forward. Now if you look back in this, we start with 17th century. Entomology in fact began as a science. That was the 17th century. Why we are telling? Because in 18th century, if you say the first Danish scientist, John Fabricius, he led to medical entomology. Now we are talking of medical entomology, public health entomology. And those scientists, they started speculating that there is a role of insects in transmission of these diseases. So it started with a speculation. When we joined PhD, like you have to speculate the idea, then hypothesis, then theory, so the same thing. And then first time, 1879, the great scientist Manson, Sir Patrick Manson, he discovered that filariasis transmission by mosquitoes. And that theory was actually embedded in the mind of Sir Ronald Ross. And prior to that, 1887, if you look, the first medical man in India, Dr. Carter, now he confirmed the elaborate discovery of malaria parasite because he could see in the microscope certain pigments, which basically when we were doing training, that you have to look for the pigment. So he was the first medical man who looked for the pigments in the microscope. And then finally the day came when filaria transmission by mosquito discovered by Sir Manson was evidenced documentarily by Sir Ronald Ross, the great physician. He at Secunderabad, now actually the function is going on today, the Secunderabad, the Sir Ronald Ross Institute, they are releasing one postal stamp today at 10:30, and the ministers and the chief of the postal services, they are there. So he basically discovered possibly that mosquito was Anopheles stephensi. And these theories and these inventions, they started the lead for the discipline of medical entomology. Now, going little further, now during the period of 1898 to 1903, Royal Society, because that was basically a time of British India, and Royal Society of London, another eminent scientist, we have got a lot of books of Christopher's, Simpson, and then Stephens, Norton, James. We have just read in the books their history. They could incriminate. They started doing the exercise and incriminate the vector, dissecting the microscope and then say dissecting in the mosquitoes and seeing the microscope. It was a little difficult task during those period. And finally in Bombay, because if you read the Bentley's publications and book for the written by Cowell, malaria control in Bombay, there the reference comes by Bentley, who has worked a lot. So the police surgeon, Sir Dr. S.A. Powell, he confirmed certain positive. Now look here, out of 3,000 plus, he could see 2,500 positive malaria cases. And that was the scenario in Bombay. So they said, no, nothing. We have to do something. Why I am just repeating these things, that was the first time when he recommended that the medical services should have medical services, sanitary services, and the mosquito expert. This is very, very important term. They used mosquito experts, means now what we call it as a vector control experts. So without vector control experts or mosquito experts, during those period also, in beginning of the century, they could not imagine that they will be able to control the disease. And then the vectors started being incriminated. Then Central Malaria Bureau was established, which now we are seeing at 22 Shamnath Marg, the famous place. It started Central Malaria Bureau, Kasauli, near Chandigarh, 1909, where some entomological studies were started being done by those people. And then finally, that I have told about this, Dr. Bentley, he published the paper, given recommendations, full design, that who are all required, including experts and sanitary inspectors. So the cleanliness, hygiene, source reduction, all those things, along with the treatment, was recommended during Bentley's recommendation. And then when the Central Malaria Bureau was established in 1909, then a series of development started. There were many things were published by Malaria Survey of India. Then first provisional list of catalog of Anopheline mosquitoes. Because I am restricting my talk on vector control and entomology, there have been many parallel evidence on medical history also. That is a separate chapter. So Christopher Sir, he recorded 1994, he published the first provisional list. And then the record of malaria survey was published in Journal of 1929. And then that legacy was continued and taking that legacy of those scientists like Heath, Bentley, Christopher. Then first publication came in 1935, official publication, What Malaria Cost India. That was very, very important, and it is available in NCDC library. If somebody is very much interested, they can just take a reference of reading those things. Very, very interesting what malaria cost in India. Then now what happened when this century started, then the first time the Kala-Jar ancillary inquiry was formulated in the third decade, and they gave their inquiry report that was closed down. But till that period, man-to-man transmission in India for Kala-Jar was not established. This is very, very important. During that report, it was very clearly written. Then in 38, the Malaria Survey of India, it was brought to Delhi, the capital of India. And once it was brought, the activities also started flaring up. Then this Malaria Survey of India was named as Malaria Institute of India. And once Malaria Institute of India, parallelly in Bombay also they established a Hafkin Institute and Department of Entomology. That was very interesting. That first time a known Department of Entomology was established. Otherwise, entomology was known as an agriculture subject. No, they were not discussing about public health entomology. Then similarly, on the same pattern, simultaneously, an entomology laboratory was also established when the Malaria Institute of India was shifted in Delhi. And then training started. And we all have read in the books that how the training was going on. There was a few full documents of malaria and entomology training, old papers it is written. Then in 30s, vector control started based on the entomological finding. Once you know the behavior of the mosquitoes, you know the larval habitats, you know the, so initially with pyrethrum anti-adult operations in Delhi, and then in Yamuna Canal, larval control, and then came the era of the Russells, Paul F. Russell. He gave the full entomological information about southern peninsula in India. Meanwhile, the Swaminathan, Dr. Swaminathan, he confirmed that man-to-man transmission for Kala-Jar. That was very, very interesting that when they could not do in initial inquiry, then by 1930, 1940, they could establish that. And then the era came of miracle in vector control when DDT was invented, and 1944, first time it was used in Indian Armed Forces, though it was a British India. Now, the development which has taken place during the course of time, that you have established a theory that malaria is being transmitted by mosquitoes. Broadly, it was malaria. Other diseases came little late. So our great Indian scientist, I.M. Puri sir, he made an identification key. One for adult, one for larval anophelines, and one he gave the full training. See, this is the practical entomological course which I was talking in 48. These are all old documents. It was published and it is archaic records. I could collect. Thank you, Dr. Leo, for making this topic for me to. And then came our first director who got the award of Government of India, very high award, and Dr. A.P. Sir. In fact, I have got the opportunity to see him and discuss few words with him. He was sitting just after retirement. He is famous to control malaria, bring down from estimated millions and millions of cases to zero death in 1965, and he was awarded for that. But he was very strict and hard taskmaster when he used to go to the field. He was the basic philosopher for vertical program, because he was of the opinion that it should work like an army. If you are say rule of thumb came from his idea only. And this is his famous red book where he gave the formula of 234 and 334. If you want to go in the field and do the spraying, 2 pounds of DDT in 3 gallons of water for 4 houses. So he gave the formula 234. Now most of the people, they may not be aware about that. Then after him, when the cases started increasing in India and 1976-77, this was an epidemic period. So this man emerged as recently he passed away, Dr. S. Patnaik. He is the man known for revised policy in modified plan of operation, which is still in continuation. 1977, he made this policy, and the program mode. Program, he was the person who made first time that no country should have entomological zones officially institutionalized under program. So he created 72 zones with one entomologist and supportive staff of technicians and insect collector. Meanwhile, great entomologist from Bangalore, Professor T.R. Rao, he made a book. In fact, this is a revised edition. Earlier, he also published this old edition of the Enough Lines of India, compiled, very nice book. It is there in my backside. And this book, I mean, this revised edition, we were very young. When 81, we joined Malaria Research Center, now known as NIMR. Myself, Dr. Nagpal, and there are many, many scientists during that time. We just came as a senior research fellow and junior research fellow. So this book editing, we were sitting in the press and doing a lot of editing to do the corrections, and that gave the impression that we could learn all those techniques, how the age of mosquito is calculated. Then when we started working on the program, and our one colleague, Dr. Beena Panidas, I have not been able to post her photos, but she's the living legend and living taxonomist in the country. Now she is retired, and this is the Bible book for taxonomy now being used after these old people, they have gone. So this is the book which has helped for identifying the enough lines of India. Now, in between, what has happened, how the research and entomology has developed very recently. In 1975, genetic control of mosquito unit was established, which have given birth to many scientists of the institution, which we are now knowing, like Malaria Research Center, Vector Control Research Center, Pondicherry, Center for Research in Medical Entomology. Now that has become a part of this, and then all those regional medical research centers, like Dr. Harsh was talking, Jabalpur, Jodhpur, Bhubaneswar, Dibrugarh. So many places, a Department of Health Research, the ICMR, they created those institutions, and scientists were given the job of doing a lot of entomological work in addition to other their intramural and extramural researches. Based on all those inputs of the scientists from 17th century, 18th century, 19th century, see, we are able to identify 255 species. This is a little more now updated, and there are so many enough line species, 86 species worldwide. I'm not comparing, but based on their work in the field, we have been able to give this kind of record that India has got 255 species of the mosquitoes, and that is a great achievement of entomologists and vector control experts. Now, coming to vector control based on the entomology and behavior, as we know that blue color block is for the source reduction. So it started with 1902 with source reduction with Sir Ross demonstrated. Then we studied about behavior and habit, and then Christopher started by kerosene oil treatment. Then what happened? Then the era came for adults killing. The adults killing started with pyrethrum extract, natural plant. Now again we are talking of some botanical products and use of limited chemicals as per POPs guidelines and Stockholm Convention. Then Sarda Canal, and then different seepage canal system making, lot of things, Banbasa and all the places, and then different dams which are being constructed. So engineering works started in that. And then it was recognized that without vector control experts, it will be very, very difficult to identify which area is at the risk of mosquito population or vector vulnerability and their receptivity for those problems. Then DDT came, and then it was introduced, as we have discussed, DDT, miraculous insecticide used as a tool, but now it was in little phasing in, it is in phasing out. So the program started in 1953 as a full-fledged program in India after the freedom. 58, it was because of success of Dr. A.P. Ray's work and other people. It was thought that eradication program, and globally also it was thought that, like in the beginning Dr. Leo was mentioning. Then we thought that rural malaria is okay, we will be able to control. What about urban malaria? So 1971 urban malaria scheme was launched because Stephen's eye was coming problem. Now again Stephen's eye has taken up the main picture. And modified plan of operation was launched, I told, 1978. The National Filaria Control Program, which was initially with the Malaria Institute of India and the National Institute of Communicable Diseases, now known as National Center for Disease Control, NCDC, it was brought as a control portion to the NVBDCP. That time it was in fact NMEP. And 1991, the Kalajar was organized as a control program, which was also became a part of NVBDCP. But that time the name was given only NMEP or NAMP, anti-malaria program. Dengue and Japanese encephalitis also were brought in. So dealing with so many diseases deviating from malaria, budgeting constraints and synchronization, and because at the state level people are same to work for those. So the name was given as an integrated name, National Vector-Borne Disease Control Program. That is how the name has come. Some people they talk of NTD. Certain countries they have made a department of NTD. India, it was already been made not in the name of NTD, but it was NVBDCP. Now, if you see the control strategy, pre-DDT era larviciding, 50s DDT, organochlorine and phosphate. Then 70 when resurgence started, then we changed to integrated vector control. 92 the global malaria control strategy came, which started for vector control, emphasized, and then we started selective vector control. Why I am telling you selective vector control? Because 95 we have designed malaria action plan, and that we have taken a decision that we will not be doing all these structures to be sprayed, but we will do only human dwelling so that man-mosquito contact is avoided. And then World Assembly resolution in 97 that IBPM, integrated pest vector management. And then slowly started POPs coming, Stockholm Convention pressure, so that we are to do little less reliance on the chemical insecticide. The first attack is on DDT being the POP. When Stockholm Convention came, as I told, 95 we have taken this decision, so reducing the insecticide. 96 we introduced synthetic pyrethroid. Prior to that there was a term trial. 97 we banned BHC, benzene hexachloride. Then 97 we introduced BTI as a larvicide. Then plain bed nets and ITN, it was started from 2007-8. Now it is long-lasting insecticidal nets have been brought in. And then again we took a decision that another insecticide, larvicide Fenthion, which was banned because of toxicity and because of resistance. We developed the environmental code of practices because it was very important for World Bank project, Stockholm Convention pressure. So there are 6-7 booklets on that. Then breeding checkers were engaged to have the larval. So scope of larval source management was increased, which was restricted only to smaller towns and identified towns. Then insect growth regulators were introduced in 2015 and 2016. Integrated vector management along with national framework for malaria elimination was released in 2016. After that, the recent book has also come as MVCR, mosquito vector control, on the alignment of the GVCR. MVCR India has been released. I'll show the photographs for that. So these were the guidelines which were brought in. This is very important that we change the concept of eradication to anti-malaria, that is basically a control. And then these are the books which were released. And then finally 2017 we were able to do, following the framework of malaria elimination, we were able to release this strategic plan for malaria. These are some photographs, national framework and this malaria operational manual released by this photograph shows the commitment of the highest leaders, whosoever has been the minister, health, and the WR and the WHO. Everybody is united at one platform to support Indian program, and such a nice documents. This is our integrated vector management manual, and this is the mosquito. So see the progress. 2020, immediately after GVCR, this document, mosquito vector control response, was released. Now, institutional mechanism for our control operations and taking entomology. We have got two different departments, Indian Council of Medical Research and National Center for Disease Control Program, who have been supporting like that. Like in USA, you have seen CDC. So we always depend on ICMR and NCDC departments. where they try to support us by entomological monitoring and evaluation of new tools and products. We always look for that. And then their recommendations are processed through the expert groups and technical committees, and then functionality of zones. So many things they support us. Now, see, based on those institutional mechanism, monitoring and support from the different people, see, the insecticide reliance is reducing, whereas the LLIN is increasing. This is very, very important as per new global policy, and larval source management is also being promoted, especially on fishes, which were very, very remotely done in 70s and 80s. Now we have got certain challenges. In spite of all those things, we have got certain challenges. We have got regulations, we have got regulatory bodies, we have got laws, but its implementation, its adequacy, its uniformity for metro cities and for smaller towns and municipal corporations and municipality and town panchayat. Very, very important, because in addition to malaria, dengue is flaring up, which was predominantly urban city a problem. So where is the rules and regulations? So these are the challenges which we are facing, and emergency control and international health regulation. Though everything is there on board, but its awareness is very, very important, and implementation. Now there are certain challenges which we have to do, like capacity building, because in the beginning we were discussing that everywhere the vector control and entomologist, they are all being utilized for all other work other than entomology. So that is very, very, very pathetic situation. Sometimes we have to do the insecticide resistance monitoring, and then we have to do the priority of the area depending on the monsoon and post monsoon, because different parts of the country we face different kinds of season. So we have to plan like that. There are certain scopes for operational research which the program has been advocating to our friends in the research system, that we want entomological vigilance, entomological intelligence, and suggestions for warning and consequences. If somebody is taking a project and say, look here, if you go tomorrow and do the spraying in the month of July, you will not get the result. You will do spraying in October, you will get the result. Something like that. I'm just giving a vague example. So then a specific area-wise amendment, so that the guidelines and the advisories specific to the situation are supported to the program. But they should, the accountability and responsibility should be there. It should not be in general recommendations. And change of the behavior basic researches, which everybody is now requiring with the change scenario, and especially with the ecological successions. We have got a strength also, that we have got entomological system, we have got WHO collaborating center of ICMR, we have got central and regional. I'll just show you one slide where we have got lot of people available with us. See, look here, the whole country, if you look here, the only issue is that how to mobilize, who will support them, and how to motivate them to work for entomological work and generate the data at the central district level, at the regional level, at the headquarter, at the IDSP, NCDC, ICMR, university. This may change because these positions are always dynamic. Some people are retiring, some people are leaving, some people are added. So this may change. We have got the guidelines. These are part of our strength. I have just done SWOT analysis. So these are part of the strength, that we have got a very good integrated vector management guidelines, which many countries are also following. We have got full compendium on entomological surveillance methodology, and I have given down below the link also. These are all on the program website. We have got recent documents of MVCR, which has got basically two core elements. One is very emphasized enhanced HR infrastructural capacity building on vector control and vector surveillance. And the second pillar is very, very important, that disease diagnostic. So the MVCR has not left both the pillars, entomological components, vector control, and disease facility and diagnostics. We have got environmental code of practices, so that protection, right from protection to handling to the disposal, everything is there for insecticide, not for LLIN. So that is still under consideration. The challenges are basically execution, multitasking, as I told you, resource availability, planning skill. Basically, we have to develop this skill at the lower level. Coordination mechanism. Otherwise, they are doing whatever is given guidance, because they should follow the program guidelines. And priority to entomological surveillance is very, very important, which is completely zero. And the very important portion which has been added, that attitude towards entomology. I can give you examples. Sir Patrick Manson, who discovered malaria mosquito theory, Filaria mosquito theory, Sir Ronald Ross, malaria mosquito, they were all surgeons and doctors. But they were always behaved like an entomology. Yes, there was a passion for entomology. So this is very, very important topics. And then we have got an opportunity. We have got an opportunity that win the disease, because we have got national vector-borne disease control program. So all integrations, we are dealing the same staff, same people are dealing with vector control, dengue, chikungunya, malaria, filariasis. So the command is one. So always this is an opportunity where we can always start working with one disease or the other and have a collateral effect. Because many countries I know that we have a separate departments where malaria is being dealt by some, dengue is being dealt by some, and GI is being dealt by some. So these are the opportunity. And look here, we have got a synchronization efforts, and there are people they are willing to support the whole program in the country. Still now, after the century experience, we have got entomology, we have got filaria, we have got UMS, we have got ICMR. But I have added, along with WHO, there are major partners. There are many small partners which are still working. But APMEN, PATH, CHAI, GATES, Global Health, and our own NGO, Absolute Human Care Foundation, we are all supportive to the program. And these are all books which I just showed. These are all to support the program only and capacity building to the program personals only. Now the threat is, if we do not do all those things, after centuries and centuries experience, right from 17th century, and we have learned, the vacuum will increase the gap. Revival, if it's not that, it's completely gone zero. I will not give the example, but at top level, at the bottom level, at the lower level, even for that matter, WHO, we have got only 3 or 4 people. So there is a loss. Institutional memories are always also gone. I am very thankful to Dr. Leo that he asked me to do this, and I have been able to generate certain evidences from that, my own experiences. Then skill and interpretation completely reducing, policy and quick decision capacity is lacking, and accountability. If the ad hoc arrangement continues, contractual system continues, we will not have the accountability. I am telling you with full confidence, because if I am getting 1 lakh rupees and tomorrow somebody offers me 2 lakh, I will just go. Why should I stay here? So that accountability. But when I am in a permanent job, I am accountable to government. We cannot live like that. So what more to do? I think this will be the last slide, possibly. We need adequacy of the staff, which in 1911, Dr. Bentley suggested and recommended to Bombay Control. And that is why we always give, even after Devankar sir, who trained us, that entomology vector control is a major pillar of vector control programs. Appropriate vector control suggestions for the researchers, safeguard building from vectors, all constructions, we should have this documents. There are legal documents are also available for that in India. I have not touched those, but there are different chapters available for legal setup for this. Hiring the labor contracts and settling them. Operation and maintenance should be a regular budget. I always give an example that if road constructions and maintenance is not made, what happens in big cities? Immediately one small hole on the road, immediately the thing will come. In a smaller town, what happens? They will do many things, and then they will assess, and then they will do the tendering. So by the time people are facing those difficulties. So focused approach in slums and resettlement colonies. Solid waste management for vector control, very, very important, which most of the companies and corporate sector also they should do. We should have some newer tools like long-lasting insecticidal residual analysis instead of 2 rounds, 1 round, something like that, and new vector control. Larval source management has to go beyond the scope of the rural urban area limited. It should go. We identified once long back that there are 500 plus towns in the country which are affected with malaria, filaria, dengue altogether. So we should have the expansion of that, but it requires budgeting and formulation and entomological surveillance and insecticide resistance monitoring. So to do all these things, you must retain the people who are experienced, whatever way you want to do, but with the full dignity of them and full giving honor and respect to them. So this is all very, very important thing. I'll just give a flash of some people. Dr. VP Sharma, who has been mentor for me. Kalra sir, everybody knows about the great entomologist. Parallelly, Dr. P.K. Rajagopalan, today evening we will be felicitating him. He is a living legend of 92 years. He was the first director of Vector Control Research Center, Pondicherry, and Dr. V.P. Sharma was the first director of Malaria Research Center, now NIMR. Professor A.P. Das is a living legend. He has been director of many institutions of ICMR. He has been regional advisor for WHO Zero region. He has been vice chancellor of Central University, Tiruvarur, Tamil Nadu, and then he is now currently he is a vice chancellor of Public Health University in Asia Public Health University in Bhubaneswar. Dr. C.K. Rao sir, he has been our mentor in LF and entomology and great mathematician approach. He is also living legend. Dr. P.K. Das was successor of Dr. Rajagopalan sir. Dr. Kuntala Jayaraman, the master in JE. Everybody reads JE clinic. Professor Hathi, again the West Bengal person, he was also master of JE. Dr. Sarla Subbarao, the lady known with ABCD sibling species, and the another living legend, Dr. B.K. Tyagi, who has been author of many, many books, and he has started a society for medical arthropodology. These were the first generation people whom I remember after the Bentley and Powell and Apire. And the second generation who are all now retired, but still contributing. Dr. R.S. Sharma, me, Dr. Sharma, Dr. Kalpana Barua, Dr. Das Gupta, and then certain people who have contributed maximum in the states. A.T.S. Sinha sir, Paliwal sir, Dr. Raghavendra, the insecticide resistance monitoring person, Dr. Ghosh, Dr. Krishnamurthy, Sridharan, and Dr. Korean sir. So they are the second generation people who are, if somebody wants, they can take their help on different expertise. The current scenario, people who are working, and Dr. Ashwini Kumar, first name, director VCRC, he is doing a lot for entomology and vector control. Dr. Himmat Singh at NIMR, she's a lady from Armed Forces Medical College, the one entomologist, only living legend, and then she is known as a scrub typhus lady. Then vector biology and control, Dr. Alex, and Kalajar person, Dr. Diwakar Singh Dinesh. Then the young generation working now as a consultant, Dr. Amit Katewa, consultant vector control, Usha from Karnataka, Sagya from Jharkhand, Anju from NICD, DAD. Now I believe she has joined WHO, and then Dr. Surajita Banerjee from West Bengal. So in addition to all these people, we have got 4 Indian entomologists who are supporting WHO still now. Dr. Raman, Dr. Rajagopal, Dr. Rupkumari, and Dr. Nagpal. Everybody knows them. And then in the universities, people are supporting the program, and to us and everybody who are all willing for malaria, Dr. Aarti, Dr. Pushpalata, Dr. Jayalakshmi Krishnan, and Dr. Anupam Sharma. So they are people who are from the academic side, and they are dealing many things, and they are training the students to do there are many more. In my compendium book, I have given the reference, and we just made a resource mapping at how many people are there. If you see 158, but this is changing every time. So there are many names which are not there, and photographs. So they are all there in that book. So I wish everybody to join the hand for other conferences for in the honor of Sir Ronald Ross. And today there are 5 sessions going on in India. In addition, there have been advisory from program that the state should do lot of activities. It should not be only on the book side. It should be something on practical side. Thank you very much for seeking for cooperation from everybody.
Thank you so much, Dr. Srivastav. With folded hands, I would like to thank you for such a wonderful presentation. It felt like I was back in school, and I'm sure everyone attending this seminar felt like they were back in school. this is something that we need. This needs to be taught and explained at the district level. Everyone who is working towards malaria elimination needs to know about the history and the gains and the challenges that we have faced against this terrible disease. Again, many thanks, Dr. Srivastav. Now we will be taking on a few questions from the audience. So I will read them out, Dr. Pradeep. The first question is, I would like to understand how drones technology can help to fight against the vector-borne diseases, and how drone tech sector can contribute to this in the near future.
Thank you. You want me to answer right now? So drone technology has come recently, and we have heard some paper, and I am in touch with many people who are producing drones. Basically, if you attach the sprinklers with the drone, and then they can do the spraying, because we have seen the fogging through the aircraft for agriculture sector. And I remember that when JE epidemic came in UP, we went to Raebareli, but we were not able to do fogging with aircraft fogging long back. So there have been many problems, but we have heard in books that yes, aircraft fogging has been very important. Aircraft raining also is very important. So if we use the sprinklers, but the only thing that drone technology can be very useful, provided it is developed in coordination with the experts, that what kind of doses and what kind of speed and what kind of nozzle output is very important, so that the chemicals whatever is sprayed or the non-chemicals which is sprayed, they do not go injudiciously in the environment. That's very important. The second aspect, linked aspect, will come once somebody is doing business. So if drones are developed based on somebody's recommendation, whether it will be taken into the program, how it will be commercialized, that will be very important. There are many things which has come in the market, but they are not commercialized through the program. So I am not very confident to answer for that, but basically instrumentation part, it requires many things to be considered before it is programmed. The replacement, the maintenance, the user feasibility. So those things are there. So if something can be done by separately, let us see and wait and watch. But first thing has to be developed.
Thank you so much, sir. We have a comment from Mr. Raghavendra Kamaraju. He informs us that Greater Hyderabad Municipal Corporation in Telangana is using drones for application of larvicides in river channels. So the next question is from Sompao. They want to know what is the role of community people in malaria vector control.
Very important question, and very crucial. Of late, since 2012-13, the concept of community volunteers for source reduction, it came in the program when the breeding checkers were employed. It started with Karnataka first, and then it has been taken as a part of National Implementation Plan guidelines, and all these states are being supported that they should do the breeding checking. At least they will be given small training and they will be given breeding checking, so that they can do source reduction. They should not create the breeding in and around their houses. Very important for dengue, chikungunya, and Zika, and Stephen's eye create malaria. So they are the nearby people. And then source reduction in a common platform, which was being done since long, that channelization, irrigation channel, and so when there is an excavation for the road construction or railway construction. So the people who are labor, basically they are the local community. They are hired from there only. So they do not move from Delhi to Bihar or Bihar. So they are all local contractors and local. So they are basically, so they should be made aware, but they are contributing it. But the need is that they should be continuously awareness generation should be there. It is not one time affair, but community role is very important, and it is being done. It has been promulgated. Not only for that, even fish culture also people have been, awareness has been generated.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We have one more question. We have two questions which are popping up with thumbs up votes. The first question is, how did you make attraction for the young population to learn in malaria vector control? I think this is very important. How is the next generation going to be interested, and how we are making the subject attractive to them, as they are the leaders of tomorrow? Yeah.
Thank you. I can give one real example that when we started in last year 2020, from 18th July till 20th of December, we started. See, there are always some face value. It is something like that when Amitabh Bachchan is doing some kind of, or some national leader is doing some kind of advertisement, whether you are knowing the subject or you are not knowing, you will try to listen that. Amitabh Bachchan was telling for polio only two drops, do boon. So people were understanding. So when we started this course in Absolute Human Care Foundation, you will not believe that more than 750 people they have registered throughout the period. And every session was attended by not less than 100 plus persons. So I don't think that if real trainers are there and you inculcate the result, and it was all completely free of cost. They are simply to organize. So the requirement is that people should be excellent and knowledgeable people should be brought in back on the same platform if you really want to generate the interest in teachers. If the teacher is bad, if it is just like a passing the time, people will not come. So you have to have engaged the good teachers, experienced people, and then try to inculcate the experience, and definitely young people will come. There are many universities example that people are coming for the entomology, and medical entomology or public health entomology should be advocated for that.
All right, thank you so much, sir. So the next question is, with the 4 thumbs up votes, what would Dr. Srivastava suggest to the countries listening in this webinar, how they can follow India's footsteps in grooming people who can follow the path of Sir Ronald Ross, a noble profession that saved millions of lives? Thank you for the amazing presentation.
There are many examples, not for my presentation. There are many presentations which young people they should follow. And I have been always talking that there are certain things which are without resources can be done. Like when you are going, you can just collect some larvae, forget about the entomological monitoring and parameter and calculations. You can just collect some larvae, come back in your room and put something on the drum and try to allow them emergence with the mosquito net and see what kind of mosquito, and the mosquito is killed, then you are having a key mosquito, and then you can just identify. So there are certain things which will generate the interest of the people. And I remember my director, Dr. Dhariwal, was there. So he used to kill some mosquitoes and bring and call us, any one of us of entomology, identify this mosquito, what is that? So there are many ways which are actually without resource can be done. But yes, they should follow the proper guidelines of program. That is very, very important for uniformity of the data, for making the WHO repository very, very strong from countryside. They should follow the program guidelines, and then they should submit the data as per that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Very, very comprehensive and clear outlook. So the next question is, I think this is an equally important issue that has been brought up. How to address the entomologist recruitment and retention? There are no clear career pathways in our country. Even the supply of entomologists against the demand is very poor. How center and state governments can address this issue sooner than later? Everything depends upon the competent and qualified workforce.
This is a difficult question because this is precisely an administrative question which I am not competent to answer. But I can only suggest the young people who have raised this issue that we have been trying since 1997. My predecessors have been trying this. There are certain rules and regulation framework. The era has come when integrated approach is required. An era has come when the consultancy services have poured into. So it is basically a government to take a decision whether permanency is important. I can cite only example right from Bentley to my recommendation. But it is basically a people who are sitting on the government that they require permanent positions with accountability, or they want to hire some people with the commitment and then get the work done. And so hire and fire policy, precisely my feeling is that it will not work in vector-borne diseases control program. And or sometimes some revolution may happen, I do not know. But basically we have to have patience and we have to go on requesting the government or the administrative authorities, and because the state has got their own rule frameworks and center has got their own. But if we talk right from global WHO till the state level, you are only counted entomologist.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. I think there are so many questions, so many things. You know, when there's a very good presentation happening, questions start popping up in our heads, and we are in that space that we want to learn so much more. Unfortunately, due to the human restrictions, I call them, due to the time restrictions, we won't be able to take up all the questions, but we will try to get back to you with answers very soon. So on this note, I would like to once again thank Dr. Srivastava for taking the time out in teaching us, in schooling us all the way through. And it has really opened up our minds. And now we will look at the issue of vector control from a new perspective.
I just want to
yes,
say,
sir.
if you allow 1 second, that recently many of the questions are answered. Recently, we have framed one. I mean, I was part of that documentation through WHO support, vector control need assessment. So vector control need assessment is a comprehensive document which has been shared to WHO, and possibly it will be shared with the program very recently, and it will go. So if they are all going through that vector control need assessment, every state and districts can design so that most of the answers they will get in that, because that has given a long list of priorities of the vector control needs, basically.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. All right. Everyone, before we log off, I would like to request you to please participate in a very quick poll. I would request the secretariat if it can be launched. So the poll is live. There are just 3 questions. Please input your answers in the poll before you log off. Thank you. We are getting the responses. Thank you so much. And in the chat box, you can also see the social media handles of APLEMA and APMEN. We have the websites, the Twitter handle, and the Facebook page. Please follow us for notifications regarding the future events. And we are constantly sharing new resources and new technical advocacy material aimed towards malaria elimination in the Asia Pacific. Thank you so much, everyone.